Jimena, what's your base case for what happens next? A Maduro win doesn't seem to be a surprise. What's next?
Well, we're looking at what government stability would look like in Venezuela, and obviously we're coming into this election after several years of high levels of instability and popular protests that were seeking to remove the Maduro government and force a transition. Now, if we look at our government stability projections index, after the election, we expect an improvement in stability simply because the government would have successfully removed threats like the opposition National Assembly and has suppressed protests that could have brought it down.
And the backdrop, Tina, has gotten a lot worse from the Venezuelan economy, in part because of ConocoPhillips. So they basically seized some refineries and storage tankers in the Caribbean, if we can pull that up, in part because they're owed $2 billion from PDVSA. Walk us through why this was such a game changer for this conversation.
Well, what's interesting, that there's been a lot of companies that have gone to the International Court and claimed that they are owed money by Venezuela. ConocoPhillips is far from the first. But in this instance, what our reporting has shown is that Venezuela didn't take the sort of precautions that they normally take and that people, with cases before the International Court will take, and that's to block access to some of the assets. So ConocoPhillips has actually been successful, as you said, in claiming some of the oil. They've gotten 3 tankers. They're after 12. We've seen sort of 9 sort of tankers make abrupt changes.
Turn around, go back to Venezuelan ports.
Abruptly change their paths to stay out of the way. And basically what's happened is they've gone after these assets in what are called the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, and that's in a jurisdiction where they've been a lot of success.
And David, I just point out that this is sort of the tanker map that we have on Bloomberg, and you can see the tankers that have turned around and are also now stuck at ports because they don't want to send that tanker out.
Well, exactly. And Jimena, I want to really step off of this and say, isn't this part of a larger problem Mr. Maduro has? I mean, PDVSA is terribly important to him, but he's got a lot of problems. Isn't the financial noose sort of tightening around his country? So I understand he may have more stability because there isn't much opposition. Is that a stability that's going to take the country in a good direction?
Well, absolutely not. In terms of the liquidity crisis that the country is facing, it's only going to get worse. And that is translating into a humanitarian crisis. So if we look at, the more reliable figures we see coming out of Venezuela, which is, surveys produced by universities, 9 out of 10 Venezuelans now live in poverty. People on average have lost 11 kilos. They're fleeing the country, not in their thousands or hundreds of thousands, but potentially in their millions, and are going to Brazil, Colombia, Peru, the whole region. So what Venezuela is facing now is also a huge level of brain drain that even with financial injections, it will take generations to recover from.